What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here, back for another predicted lineup video, and we've got Rez back in the studio. How are we doing, Rez?
Very well, Ben. Thank you for having me on.
It's good to have you back. Obviously, predicted lineup, massive game this weekend against Leicester in the Premier League. It's our chance to go back into fourth prior to the Arsenal game, which kicks off directly after the Spurs game. Antonio Conte has been speaking in his pre-match press conference. The team news is out. So what is the team news today, Rez?
So it seems as if these players that we know about, Skip, Doherty and Tanganga, but now we've added Reguilon to the injury list, which makes the wing-back situation pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, we've been speaking in the match preview all this morning, being like, who are we going to play there? Who are we going to play there? We didn't know about this Reguilon injury. Now it has come to light. And it looks as though he could be out for a while, because Conte was saying he doesn't know when he's going to be back.
Yep.
And with only 5 games left of the season, one would assume that he probably would be out for the rest of the season.
You would think so. It makes everything now just almost by default. It's Conte's system will now be, or Conte's square starting 11 will essentially be, who have I got left?
Yeah.
We've been talking about the fullback, the wing-back situation for weeks. Everyone has. We know how bad it's been. I don't think any of us expected it to get to this level of thinness. I mean, what do? Do you play the youth? Do you play people that, you know, are still in the academy? Could it get any worse than this? That's the key here, and it's concerning. It really is.
The fact of the matter, right, is that we're not leaking goals. We're still quite sturdy at the back, but if you do put a kid in there, that can be the case. We could start to leak goals if you do bring someone from the youth in there.
Agreed, but do you know what my main concern is going forward? You know, Conte's system relies on having some ability, or a fair amount of ability, out on the flanks, and we just seem to be burning through fullbacks. You know, we had I don't think we've had all 4 full wing backs fit at the same time this season, other than maybe 1 or 2 games. And so, you know, we had Doherty coming along, and it was like everything was really optimistic. Then he gets injured. Okay, fine. So our 2 left wing backs are back, and now one of those is injured. And if we've gone 2 games without having a shot on target, there is zero creativity. No one is creating. If you mark Kane out of the game, the whole strength of the Conte system of those sort of 3 up front is that if you mark them, you're leaving space for your fullbacks. When your fullbacks aren't effective, though, all you need to do is mark those front 3, or in our case, mark Kane, who is the sort of major spark. You know, you can't rely on the likes of Bentancur and Højbjerg to create everything, because they're pushed to the back. They're not really playmakers. Bentancur is a little bit, but Højbjerg isn't, or isn't being utilised like that. So we have a problem. And
it's not the right time for these problems to arise.
Absolutely. It is the worst time that these things could happen, and it's happened to us.
All right, well, let's get into the predicted lineup. We're going to go for a 3-4-3 formation as per usual. I mean, I potentially would like to see us change it up a bit, maybe put a 3 in midfield, or even a 4 at the back. I would try for this game, but I think Conte will stay and stick with the formation that he has been playing since January. So in goal, we are obviously going to go for Hugo Lloris, and he was massive for us in the Aston Villa game when they really put us under the cosh. So we're going to need to have a repeat performance like that this weekend, aren't we?
Absolutely. I have no concerns about Lloris at all. A lot of people will question the mistakes they make, but you know, players and goalies make mistakes. It happens. This Lloris for me is still probably the best shot stopper in the league. I genuinely believe that. De Gea is probably the only one who comes close to him. I don't care about his age. He's still very nimble. There have always been question marks about his distribution. That's not going to change. But, you know, we saw it against Aston Villa. You don't need distribution to be able to stop goals that are being peppered at you at that kind of rate. So I'm happy with Lloris, and yeah, he'll be fine.
Well, what do you think it is with Hugo that all his mistakes gets massively polarized? Everyone looks into them so much, where as opposed to someone like an Alisson, Ederson, who makes quite a few mistakes from time to time. Why don't keepers like that get focused on as much as maybe a Hugo does?
For Alisson, Ederson and De Gea, I think the key here is that they were really expensive. They were high-profile signings, and so they have a high-profile signing would either get a lot of latitude or very little. And I think those lot have fallen into the former category. So it doesn't matter how many mistakes they make. It's always like, oh, that's an uncharacteristic error for Ederson or for Alisson. It's like, actually, it's not. They do make those mistakes, as all players make mistakes. With Lloris, he's been with Spurs for 10 years now. Around about. So, yeah, you know, he's old news in that sense. So highlighting mistakes that he makes is no story, if you like. So
fair enough. So obviously Hugo Lloris in goal. Right wing back is going to be interesting. We're going for Emerson. Before the Reguilon news, I thought potentially Sessegnon would go to the right and Reguilon would stick to the left, but now Reguilon is out. We're assuming that Emerson does stick there, or he does stick with Emerson.
I think so.
Much to your delight, Rez.
Much to, yes.
Your despair.
You can tell that I'm containing my excitement here. It's default situation. It's a case of what else can we do other than play Emerson or a youth player? It's that risk. That is the toss-up, because we've only got two fullbacks. Or Kulu, you know, or Mora, or Bergwijn. Yes, those are potentials too, I agree. When you're this close to the end of the season, as an elite manager, and this is speculation, I don't know, but would you take that kind of risk? You know, I would if it was me playing, you know, yeah, but I'm not an elite level manager. You know, I'm not playing with the house's money. He is. So I would imagine for him, the decision will be factored by a number of different considerations rather than what we might want to see. So I'm guessing it will be Emerson.
And we all know Emerson's flaws. We've seen like over and over again this season. But for you, what does he need to do more in this game that he hasn't been doing in the previous games?
The fundamentals would be a start then. The fundamentals, being able to pass to your own player while not under pressure and the player is 20 yards away.
Yeah.
You know, the bar, Emerson has himself set the bar so low that just expecting him to be able to play at a basic level would at this point be an achievement.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. You're not wrong. But let's move over into the centre-back positions. The right centre-back, we're going to stick with Cuti Romero. Obviously, he's been our signing of the season. Brilliant player. And he's going to have his work cut out for him with Emerson on the right-hand side. He's going to have to be doing a lot of sweeping up, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. That's what he does. You know, you can see it. And he doesn't always pass to Emerson when another option is, and that has been a bit of a problem with us because we can't start moves if we're constantly moving it along the back line. And I think that applies to the left as well. I think it happens within our three central defenders always worry about passing out to the flanks, and so we see stiff, stultified movement. And I guess we're going to see more of that unless Conte has managed to basically get a different method of play into them. We might see more of the same.
So alongside Cuti Romero, we're going to stick with Eric Dyer in that centre-back position. I mean, Dyer's had a brilliant season, but I feel like the last couple of performances hasn't been at the levels that it has been in terms of playing out from the back and his passing ability. Obviously, his passing ability has been there on show for pretty much the majority of the season. But when we're trying to play out the back, he's so important for us in terms of those long raking balls or even the just short passes out to Romero, out to Emerson, out to the left. But I think it has been a bit off the last couple of games, so I would call on him to maybe just improve that. I mean, it's really important for us, that passing out the back, especially under this Conte system.
I think so too. He's done well this season. He's done a lot better than last season. I think he's had the advantage of playing in a 3, but that distribution is important. Yes. and he will need to up his game a little bit. I mean, you're coming to the tail end of the season. It is really now time to push. If he's dropped off a little bit, he's chosen the wrong part of the season to take that breather almost. It is now the sharp end. You've got to be giving it all, because in 5 games' time, that's it.
Absolutely. So that's Romero and Dyer, the first 2 centre-backs. The third will be Ben Davies, as usual. Again, had a strong season. And, just keep going, Davies. I think that when Conte first came in, he was really like impacting the attack, joining in the attack. He's not really doing that as much because Romero's come into the side now. But I do think that that's the position that can really be upgraded on this summer.
I agree. I like Ben Davies because of his work rate, not necessarily because of his ability. But for me, the fundamental of a player is that they work hard, and he certainly does. And he has contributed a little bit more since Conte came in. But in central defence, if you're only going to get one centre-back, the one that you upgrade is probably Davies. The hope is that you get 2, but even if we do upgrade him, I would like to see Davies stay at the club.
Agreed. He's a great utility player to have.
Absolutely.
And I've always said that quite consistently when people have been quick to maybe rush him out the door, Ben Davies. But I always think that because of the work rate he puts in, and technically he's not such a bad player,
No.
he's a good player to have as an option off the bench.
Yeah,
and
I
as
agree.
cover.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the back 3 of Romero, Dyer, Davies. Left wing back, out of options here because Reguilon is injured. So Sessegnon comes in at left wing back. A poor display out at Brentford last time out. What do you want to see more from him this weekend?
I want to see him focus more. I want to see him getting closer to the byline and getting more crosses and better crosses in. I want him to be more available as an out ball so that we can spread play if we need to. And a lot of that will be about how much confidence his teammates have in him as well. I would also like to see if he can get through a second game, a second 90 minutes, because we looked it up before and you told me that he's only done one 90-minute period this season. That is not good enough. If he's injury prone, then I'm sorry, that's another one to get rid of. If he's not injury prone, if it's just a bad fortune, then he needs to get through this 90 minutes intact.
Agreed. So let's run through that back line with you one more time. So it's Hugo Lloris in goal, Emerson right wing back, Sessegnon left wing back, Davies, Dyer and Romero to make up that centre-back positions. In the midfield, you can probably have guessed it, but we're going to tell you anyway, Bentancur in the middle of the park. Again, another one who's really not been playing as well as he has been in the past couple of games. Could be due to the knock that he picked up in training just before those 2 games. But in terms of dictating the play, he's the one that's going to do that for us, isn't he?
I think so. Of the 2, he's the one that has more responsibility, I feel, for getting the ball forward, for progressing. It's not to say Højbjerg doesn't, but it's almost like, that's your primary role. And your secondary role is to shield the defence and break up play. And with Højbjerg, it's the other way around. The primary role is to shield the defence and break up play, and his secondary role is to try and get the ball progressed. Bentancur's got an amazing ability to pick out a pass and to take risky passes that seem to come off. The last couple of games, I think because of that knock, it's not quite been there. The hope is that he has recovered enough to go back to the levels that he was showing before those 2 games.
All right, so Bentancur on the right. And the other centre midfield role will be Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, who I believe has really stepped up in the last month or so. I believe he's playing at a really good level and letting the other players strut their stuff. I mean, in the last couple of games, it's been hard because they've been packing the midfield and it's been basically an uphill task for both Højbjerg and Bentancur. But I'll just call on Højbjerg just to keep doing what you're doing because I think he's playing well at the moment.
Agreed. He's probably the player in the last 2 games that you can't really fault for anything. He's done his job. He's remained focused, and there's not much you can say other than just keep it up.
Yeah. That's Højbjerg and Bentancur in the middle. On the right-hand side, we're going to have Dejan Kulusevski. I mean, he as well has been pretty anonymous the last 2 games on the back of some really, really strong displays. You were talking about him coming in, fitting in like a glove and really revolutionising that front 3 that we had. Last 2 games since, they've been putting the shackles on Harry Kane and really packing that midfield. He's been quite non-existent, really.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think it's a combination of the fact that he doesn't have Kane to bounce off. And he's
Doherty.
also, and Doherty is not available, and he's having to worry about the player behind him, which is justified. How you solve that? That's a harder one. How to solve that? You know, you can't expect him to do everything. He's got a very, very good footballing brain, so he can contribute still. But you're nullifying him if you're nullifying Kane and his associated wing back. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why we've seen him be pretty much anonymous the last couple of games.
Yeah, I completely agree with that again. So Kulu on the right, up front, we're going to go for Harry Kane, obviously. Mm-hmm. Harry Kane as well hasn't really been able to impact games as he has done the past month or so. I want to see him drop more deep, really kind of influence that play, be that extra man in midfield and be the creator that we know he can be, and hopefully provide balls for Sonny in behind.
Yep. I mean, when Kane drops back, we actually turn into an impromptu 3-5-2.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's necessarily a case of it's got to be done officially, for want of a better phrase, in that, you know, Kane is named as a midfielder, but maybe just drop all the way back, maybe even move into the territories that Bentancur and Højbjerg cover and use them as an outlet just in that first phase, and then, you know, they can break up play, get the ball to him, he can find a pass and then move forward. Whether or not that will happen, I don't know. When he drops into the cam, it doesn't matter where he is if he's got 2 or 3 players on him. If he's got 2 or 3 players on him, no player is going to, even Ronaldo would struggle. So this is the question. Should he stay further forward and let the other 4, let's say Son, Bentancur, Kulusevski and Højbjerg, do the work? Do we try and get to the flanks and he can be there as a receiver of crosses? Obviously, they won't come from the right. Maybe 1 or 2 might come from the left. This is the question. This is the quandary at the moment, because no one else is creating in that first phase of play at the moment.
Yeah, and with Sonny on the left, that kind of brings me to, you know, you want to see Kane dropping deep, in my opinion. You want to see him being that extra man in midfield, and you want to see Sonny really touching on the last shoulder of the defence and getting in behind.
Absolutely.
And that's where we're most dangerous, right?
Yes, absolutely. The Son has 2 key attributes: that acceleration and that utterly lethal conversion rate. You give him I think he's got one of the best conversion rates in terms of chances to goals in the league. So better than Kane's, in fact. So what you want is Son to have chances in front of goal, because most of them he'll score, or the majority he'll score. That's what Kane unlocks in him. That's why they're the most effective pairing in Premier League history. When Kane is stifled, Sonny has nothing. There's no one else to serve him. When we had Desk, you know, you had Dele, you had Eriksen, you had Kane to provide service for each other, and in this case for Son. At the moment, with the wing-backs not providing, with Kulu being potentially nullified, with Kane being nullified, what is there that Son can do other than run at the defence? But if there's no ball to him, or if he's got the ball and he's then pounced on by that back line, that's why there are no shots on target.
Yeah. So let's run through that team with you guys one more time. So it's Hugo Lloris in goal, a back 3 of Romero, Dyer and Davis, Sessegnon on the left, Emerson on the right, Højbjerg and Bentancur in the double pivot, with Son and Kulusevski supporting Harry Kane. If this is the lineup, what's your score prediction? You sticking with 4-1?
I'm doing well. Last time I was on, or last time I called in, Sim said that I was too rational, so I'm going to be a bit deluded. Yeah, 4-1 Spurs.
Too deluded, right?
Oh God, I can't win. Yeah, I have to say 4-1 because I'm a big believer in the whole, you know, you got to have faith in your team, or, you know, believe in the absence of evidence. That's what faith is. So I'm just going for the whole, this is my faithful thing. I believe in my club, and I'm going to say 4-1. I'm ignoring the voice in my head that is screaming at me for being stupid.
Yeah, ignore that. Ignore that voice. I'm going to go for 3-1. I think we just need to get by hook or by crook, we just need to get a win this weekend. And to be honest, I tell you, I couldn't care less if we played well, if we play awful. Just get those 3 points this weekend. Let's put pressure on Arsenal going into that game against West Ham. And you never know what can happen with a bit of pressure. And, you know, people say, oh, West Ham going to play a weak team. They're going to roll over for Arsenal. You never know what can happen with a bit of pressure. And especially this stage of the season, you never know what's going to happen. You've seen it. Look, just take Arsenal's results in isolation for an example. They lose to Brighton, Southampton, and Crystal Palace, and then they go beat Chelsea and Manchester United. So you don't know what's going to happen at this stage of the season. So everyone, keep the faith. Let's stay on board. Let's support the team this weekend. Let's get 3 points, and then we'll see what happens afterwards. But I think the main point is we need to concentrate on ourselves and get that 3 points this weekend. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. That is your predicted lineup. Put your predicted lineup in the comments section below, and I want to know your score predictions as well in the comments section below. Thank you, Rez, for joining us today.
Pleasure.
And we'll see you all very soon. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.